All right. Hello, everybody. Howard Jacobson here, Chief of Behavioral Science with WellStart Health, co-author of Sick to Fit. You know who else is the co-author of Sick to Fit? Today's guest, Josh. How's it going?
What's up, y'all? How's it going,
Yeah,
man?
good, good. You move your camera so your face is a little more centered. Because
Yeah.
yeah, there we go.
Right.
'Cause
I'm gonna fix it even better.
uh,
I'm gonna go back to inside. I had a little spot on the porch that was actually feeling kind of nice.
all right.
But there we go.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I was looking for your face yesterday. All right, come a little bit more centered.
Yeah.
There you go. I was watching Iron Cowboy because someone posted on Facebook that they saw you in it. So like I didn't realize that you had like a 45-second cameo at the end. So I just thought like you're one of the crowd running. So I kept on freeze framing the movie. Like, no, that's not him. That's one of his roadies. Oh, that's Rich Roll. And I'm like 5 minutes left in the movie. I'm like, oh, I must have missed it. I got to, and then there you are in your orange. So that was cool.
That was wild. Yeah, I still haven't seen it myself. I'll have to check it out. But people have been contacting me left and right. I actually got a text message from my godchild last night. It says, I just saw my parent on at the end of a documentary that everyone that who has access to Netflix can see. No big deal.
And that was meaningful for you because he's seen you behave differently.
Oh God, yes. I did my best to teach him how to drink as much, if not more, whiskey and eat as terrible, if not more terribly, like as an active thing. Like I truly felt like we were doing what my Bam Bam had done for us by showing him, how to be wild and crazy and cut loose and drink like it don't matter and eat like it don't matter. Yeah, there's been like I did a thing like it makes me laugh because we were at a family reunion one time and Zach and Hunter were babies. They weren't babies, they were probably teenagers, and but they were real young at the time. And me and Dustin were in our room and Zach and Hunter were with us. And so and we're drunk as hell, me and Dustin are wasted. That's like pretty normal. That's pretty much any time we're gonna go somewhere and have a hotel room. By the time we were there for an hour, we were shit faced. Excuse my, we were drunk, well into a bottle of whiskey. And so on top of that, we decided to get Burger King, and we just got a bunch of Whoppers. It's not like, oh, you want one, you want one. No, we would go and get like 10. Get 10 Whoppers. And we just eat as many Whoppers as you wanted until you were full. It wasn't like, oh, you got a Whopper and you got a Whopper. No, it was like a bag of chips. Like you just take as many Whoppers as you want. And one night, I just, for no reason really, just because I was drunk, I took a Whopper and threw it against the wall, and just to get everyone's attention, and then picked all the pieces up, stacked it back together, and then ate my burger. And my in like a Red Roof Inn. And so I just think about those wild and crazy, senseless stories when they see when he sees how his Paran behaves these days. It's quite a swing.
Uh-huh. And especially in the context of this movie where this guy is engaged in what could be seen as self-destructive behavior, but of a complete, it was destructive to his body temporarily, but
Temporarily,
it
yeah.
really, like you're really clear, like you could see his ego burning away
Yeah,
as he goes, and all the assumptions he had, and all the yeah, just the ego issues around. I'm going to raise $1 million, and I know what I'm doing. And finally, you see him like making mistake after mistake, alienating his fans, and getting to
yeah,
a point where he just doesn't care anymore about anything except like being a part of the flow of the universe. He gives up every outcome he was going for, and then all of a sudden, things turn around, and he gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
yeah. Surrender is powerful, man.
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk to you today about, I made a note and I didn't tell you because I like I like to keep you on your toes, um, is the role of trauma as fuel.
Yeah.
And I want to read you a paragraph from. I told you I'm reading the Springsteen autobiography, Born to Run. So it's
Yeah.
funny. It's like now two of my favorite inspirational books are both called Born to Run.
Yeah. I'm about to check out the Boss's book, man. That was my very first album I ever was allowed that I was allowed to have on my own, something to listen to.
Was
And
Born
I
to
had
Run.
I had Born in the
Uh-huh.
USA album.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I knew every word to that whole cassette.
You didn't realize he was secretly trying to make you a radical.
Right. I didn't understand that.
So
Neither did my parents.
yeah, yeah. Most people didn't. I think like Ronald Reagan asked him if he would perform it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll set up the paragraph, which is um, they were a poor working class family, in southern central New Jersey. His father had had a little sister who had been killed on a tricycle. And
Hmm.
her picture, was above, and they all lived with their grandparents. So there was like the three generations in the house. And then when Bruce came along, he was like the first child since the girl had been killed,
Hmm.
20, 30 years earlier. And so the grandparents were very strong-willed and kind of took him as their son. And like they made the
Oh,
rules, the young parents. And, his father had like paranoid schizophrenia and like
yeah.
it's
Wow.
yeah,
Sounds
sounds
familiar.
familiar. And so what his grandmother did, like he was the king, he was the messiah, he could do no wrong, and like he would stay up till 3 a.m. He would sleep until 3. He could do whatever he wanted. And so his grandparents then got older, and his mother moved them away, but he still would go there and sleep every night because that was where he felt safe and comfortable. And meanwhile, they were getting older; they couldn't take care of themselves anymore. And so here's the paragraph. Um, so I'll give you, the house by now was function. This is now he's going home he's going back to his grandparents' house, abandoning his parents. The house, and he's like, 7, 8 years old. The house by now was functional only in one room, the living room. The rest of the house, abandoned and draped off, was falling down with one wintry and windblown bathroom, the only place to relieve yourself and no functioning bath. My grandparents fell into a state of poor hygiene and care that would shock and repel me now. I remember my grandmother's soiled undergarments, just washed, hanging on the backyard line, frightening and embarrassing me, symbols of the inappropriate intimacies, physical and emotional, that made my grandparents' home so confusing and compelling. But I loved them and that house. My grandma slept on a worn spring couch with me tucked in at her side, while my grandfather had a small cot across the room. This was it. This was what it had come to, my childhood limitlessness. This is where I needed to be to feel at home, safe, loved. The grinding, hypnotic power of this ruined place and these people would never leave me. I visit it in my dreams today, returning over and over, wanting to go back. It was a place where I felt an ultimate security, full license, and a horrible, unforgettable, boundaryless love. It ruined me and it made me. Ruined in that for the rest of my life I would struggle to create boundaries for myself that would allow me a life of some normalcy in my relationships. It made me in the sense that it would set me off on a lifelong pursuit of a singular place of my own, giving me a raw hunger that drove me hell-bent into my music. It was a desperate, lifelong effort to rebuild on embers of memory and longing my temple of safety. And like that, I'm like running, listening to that, and
Yeah.
think like, what a shitty childhood. And as I'm reading more about like his life later on, like all the messes he gets into stemming from that, and yet he says this also made me, one of the the greatest performers of all time, the hardest working. I just want to
Yeah.
throw that out there, like the role of all the stuff that we wish hadn't happened, and how and
Yeah. It's
and
all a thing. Yeah, I was telling that to the people in Buffalo. As much as it hurt to lose my Bam Bam and talk about it and watch all of that happen, it's because of him that I was able to, like, that I'm able to stand in front of people and tell my story. Like, because the pain and the hurt and the sorrow and the embarrassment, I get the soiled garments, being embarrassed, not want to, that has a power over, you know? Um, but being able to use that and share that, and let it somehow, I don't know, somehow the shame dissipates. Like when you just see it and you just living it on your own. I don't know how to talk about it because I'm still just kind of shocked how similar our existence was,
Yeah.
like our family dynamic. And I just keep thinking about, and I've never really even talked to you about it before, because until you reading that about him in the physical house that was his safe place. And that was my Mama and Bam Bam's place. It wasn't a house; it was a mobile home. I grew up in it. I lived there. They bought it brand new, like in 1975, and it was the only thing I ever knew. It was their castle. I remember Mama and Bam Bam sitting on their throne in that living room my whole life with the big sailfish on the wall between them. But that place got dilapidated over time after my Mama died, and as Bam Bam grew older, and it felt like it was a good thing because me and my brother were able to move, like, to move him out of that and put him in a new place. We got another place. We moved the old one, and we were like, look at this beautiful moment, this beautiful step where we're going to take this old place that's kind of getting dilapidated, and we would really have an upgrade for Bam Bam. He'll have a new place where he could get around with his wheelchair. That was the idea back then. We get around inside with his wheelchair, and we're going to take our old place and make it bear fruit for us as renters. We're gonna put it somewhere else, fix it up, and rent it out. And it's the spring that we did that, we made the swap. A tornado came, and this was in 2015, the spring of 2015, and it completely destroyed Mama and Bam Bam's old place. It just destroyed it. And I went inside, and everything was ripped apart. The refrigerator the roof was caved in on it. Bam Bam's his hover round, the wall had caved down on top of it. It was the craziest thing, you know? But it was also as terrifying as that was, seeing like this very safe zone that I grew up with, where that's why my mama fed me. That's why my Bam Bam drank whiskey and held court at that bar, that Peninsula bar, you know? That's where we did Christmas. And as bad as it hurt, it was also felt like a step. I somehow felt the rudder or the reins even more, like it became even more important for me to step forward and do something positive with my life because of all of this that I had seen and all of the like meaning I had seen in all of this stuff. Like, so it was a point in my life where it was very ugly, but it was something that needed to be, I think in retrospect, something that kind of needed to happen to move forward in a permanent way. Because this was 2015. It was still like some wavering, still wasn't quite sure. What is this just a weight loss phase? What's happening here? You know?
Mm.
And I've never really thought about that physical asset getting completely destroyed as being like some ugliness that has fueled a new desire to carry forward a legacy that was really built in that place that has been destroyed, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a couple things of what you're saying. So, you know, one is that those traumas will keep us stuck as long as we keep them secret, as long as we're ashamed of them,
Yes.
as long as they're inside corroding. but when like when you start bringing them out, and you share things now that I've never heard you talk about, and we've had some pretty deep discussions,
Hmm.
but as you not necessarily like share, not like TMI or showing your dirty underwear in public or whatever, but just being comfortable with who you are, what happened to you, where you came from, and sort of universalizing that. Like, hearing Bruce Springsteen's story almost exactly the same as yours
Yeah.
conveys like, oh, so this is like part of normal human life. That as you come to that, all of those traumas then can be available to fuel you on really hard runs, to fuel
Right.
you
And
as you're. Yeah, go ahead.
when other people that you respect and honor share their traumas and you realize, oh, I shouldn't be ashamed of this thing. He's not ashamed. It gives you power to do it. And the more connections you make, the more you realize, oh, I'm not the only one that's dealt with this crazy stuff before. I'm not the only one, right? There are other people who have made it through, and it's so powerful. It has been so powerful for me to see people exhibit that willingness to let people see a little bit of the ugliness that creates the real them. Like Rich Roll, like Scott Jurek sharing things about his mom and his past as a kid, and you know, um, like this story with Bruce Springsteen. It helps me feel more comfortable not only with where I am and that things are okay, but also more comfortable with sharing um, more and more of myself with people for that same to help incubate that same dynamic in others, maybe to resonate with others who feel like they're the only one who's dealing with a loved one with suicidal ideations, or who's dealing with a loved one who has shit himself all the way down to his socks, you know.
Yeah, and it's a balancing act because at WellStart we don't coach people to solve those problems. Like, we're not saying you have to come to emotional peace around all this stuff before you can stop eating chips and hamburgers,
No,
right?
let it be ugly. Just like in the ultra running, where the biggest thing I can learn as a physical specimen on the race course is let it suck. It's gonna let it. How can we smile through it? How can we understand that it's temporary? There's going to be bouts of really bad, bouts of really good, and just keep moving through the muck and mire, the resistance of being alive, right? There's always resistance to that, but we are alive and we are here. Our hearts are beating. We're able to find happiness any minute, any second of every day. And I think realizing that we have the power to orient that way um, comes from having felt the deepest, darkest stuff life can throw at you.
Right. And there's certainly, we're not saying like don't get therapy for it or don't take care
No,
of
absolutely
yourself.
not.
Right? Like, I think without therapy neither you or I would be functioning.
Right? No, absolutely.
Right. But the thing we can all do at whatever stage is, it's like there's the resistance of being alive with life, but there's also this resistance that we exude, that we put on our past to say, no,
Hmm.
this didn't happen, this shouldn't have happened. I want to pretend it didn't happen. I want to move through life as if it didn't happen. I'm going to wear a smile to mask the
Hmm.
fact that it happened. And there's something about what we do, the journey we have gone on and that we take people on around facing the hard things, around your health, around moving, around saying no to all these comfort foods, that kind of breaks that facade. They say like
Yeah,
we are.
recoiling. The food itself isn't really necessarily the problem. It's recoiling from those ugly things in life that you really having trouble metabolizing. That's the thing. That's the thing. Because if we can do that better, we need less dopamine sabs. Because that's really all that Burger King is there for. That's all the whiskey bottles there for. And that's just been huge for me.
Yeah. And then so like when you are in mile 86 of a 100
Mm.
miler or mile 33 of a 50 miler that you DNF, like
Hmm.
those past traumas they're with you, but they're no longer chains holding you down.
No, no, they're fuel. They're like, this is just running discomfort. Remember the discomfort of changing Bam Bam's diaper and him screaming like you were trying to kill him the whole time? You was trying to get the poo off of him in his sheets. Remember that pain? That's nothing, man. This is nothing. Remember that? I'm feeling this pain voluntarily in honor of that pain. And so I can use that pain to voluntarily do things that seem terribly uncomfortable, but it allows me a superpower of endurance. And I think that that's innate in human beings. I think that's one of our biggest strengths is our ability to endure. That's what allows us to grow and learn.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like, and as you said, we're alive, our hearts are beating, we're breathing, which means we have survived all of that,
All of it,
right?
yeah.
Even if we have felt like victims the whole time, the truth is we are here, and we can make new choices and work through old patterns and change them. And
Yeah, even if your really smart brain has figured out a very logical, likely, probable boogeyman on the horizon before you ever get started, forget about that boogeyman. Let's do today. Let's not worry about what it's going to look like after you lose all the weight and you have loose skin. Let's not worry about what you're going to do to stop losing weight when you hit your goal weight. Let's not worry about things up ahead, what the perception of you is going to be as a new fit you with your family. Let's worry about today, you know? Let's stay in the moment and realize that life, that these resistance moments in life aren't something to recoil from and salve, but they're actually the growth itself. So rather than recoil from them, if we can gobble them up like Pac-Man and metabolize them, we will become resilient beings. Not only will that be good for ourselves, but it'll be good in concentric rings around us to the people that we love most. That's so much bigger than the scale.
yeah, and one thing I've learned from you is that running, exerting ourselves physically is not just a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
That without physical exertion, if we're just doing the emotional work, we're doing half of the work. That there's
That's it.
something about ignoring the body that is a bypass.
And it can go the same thing the other way. You know, I think it's probably harder to do the physical work and not. If you're really doing the physical work, you could be forced into that mental space that's very cathartic and helpful. At least I feel, you know. But we can also do the mental work just to, do the physical work just to check the box to get the calories so we can lose the weight without ever really buying in and going to that place that really forces you to scrape bottom, that really forces you to feel that, what we're going to do now, Josh, we up against can't, right?
Yeah, Lynn writes in the comments, the bad times make the good times better.
Yes, they do.
And knowing that, like, it can help us. Like, I go back to Leadville, 7.5 hours in, trudging up some hill all by myself, thinking this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. This is the most unpleasant day I've ever spent in my life. And I
It
go
had to be
back there,
miserable.
I go, that ended.
Yeah.
And whatever is happening now is gonna, the wheel's gonna turn.
Yeah.
And so it allows me to surrender to whatever is happening with a lot more grace.
And think about how good the finish line felt, right?
Uh huh. Didn't hurt that it
And
was
that's
a
what
slight
people want.
downhill.
People want that feeling without that 7.5 hours of pain and turmoil and suffering and grinding and endurance and
Yeah.
lostness and loneliness, you know? because it's that little 30 seconds. Imagine that first 30 seconds after you hit your watch. I mean, you forgot about all of it. We were all there. I know I was crying. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and we understand this. Like no one has ever made a record album of like the last 5 seconds of all your favorite songs.
Yeah, right.
Right? Or the last minute of every movie or the last page of every great book.
Yeah, just go around telling punchlines and jokes. Yeah. Aren't you glad I didn't say orange?
All right. You got anything else to say about that before we close?
Not really, Howie. No, no. Just don't. It's like we're not trying to succeed in spite of our difficult things that we have that are unique to our lives. We're succeeding because of them. Because without those things that make you unique, make your life uniquely difficult, you do not build the resilience necessary for permanent lifestyle change. So kudos on having those. Let them grow you. Don't let them hold you back. Love y'all.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, brother.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Peace.
Bye.